Well, it's so great to have each of you here today. Thank you so much for tuning in. And we have the great pleasure of having Rickey Clark from Patterson Motors of Kilgore here today. And just kind of talking about leadership and how he got started in leadership and also his growth. And so, Rickey, thank you so much.
Man, Scott, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me, brother. It's great to be here.
Well, it's great to have you. Thank you again. So, as we get started today, I always like to kind of start off with this question, especially for those out there who are leaders and maybe are leaders in other businesses. You're an entrepreneur, a business owner, maybe you're a supervisor, a manager. But how did you get started in your leadership journey?
Well, Scott, where I'm at today really wasn't in the cards for me where I was 20 to 30 years ago. So, to be able to come up through the journey that I had in order to get in the car business, which now, this year will be the 20th year that I've been in the car business.
Oh, congratulations.
With the Patterson Auto Group.
That's great.
Before that, it was really, everything was just a job, something I got up to go to every day, get a paycheck and go home. So I really didn't understand the really leadership role behind going to work every day. So it was more of just trying to figure it out on my own. But then I got in the car business October 26, 2004. And it was a lot. I didn't realize the life-changing experience that this career was going to bring me. Mm-hmm. And first of all, I didn't realize it was going to be a career. It's just another job, yes. Right? So it's just another job. And then, it started getting, hey, I'm pretty good at this. Mm-hmm. And so one position came to the next. And I would always ask, hey, what's next? What's the chain look like? How do you get to this part? And so there for a long time, I talked to you a couple weeks back about, people that had impact on life, right, about the sales trainer, Al Dubach. And he's the one that started getting my mind to shift in the right direction in the car business. And then I wanted to be in finance, and then I wanted to be a sales manager. And then and while being a sales manager, I became a trainer, and just all this stuff started happening, but then the goal became general manager, partner. And then I wanted to do everything that I could possibly do to do that. So, and then, the leadership side, coming up through the car business, it's worked out. I ended up being sales and doing all these things to work my way up. And here I am in Kilgore with a piece of the pie.
Yeah.
So it's been really a great journey to this point.
Oh, that is a great start. So what are some important things maybe that you've learned, through your leadership journey that you can share with us today?
That my life can be a great story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like John Maxwell says in the book Intentional Living, your life can be a great story. Yeah. It just makes me think for a minute. My life wasn't, my life, a great story. I mean, what's so great about Rickey Clark, right? So, just the way I've grown up and, the kind of things I've done. I don't come from a long line of super successful people. So it was never really in my mind, my thought process,
right,
as far as that goes, to be successful.
Right.
It's just kind of going through the motions. But for the most part, that my life matters. I mean, I can be great.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it was real big in my growing process.
Yeah. And kind of talking about that just a little bit about your growth and seeing that in your life. I think a lot of people think that, hey, I need to be in a certain environment, or I need to be, a certain economic status, or basically come from a particular family. But, what I have seen, and especially talking to other leaders, is that a lot of great leaders that I've seen, they made a decision. They didn't come from something great. Now, there are great leaders that come from some good things, but
right,
but there are some individuals that, man, they just had to kind of, as they say, pull themselves up by the bootstraps, right? And they made a decision. They decided, hey, this is what I want out of life, and this is what I'm needing, and I want to continue to gain and get more in life. And that's kind of the direction that you took, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, not coming from I don't have, that long line of super successful people. And, growing up, it never even crossed my mind about being successful. But mm-hmm. but to what you said is not necessarily you have to have everything laid out for you and done, because it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
Growing up through, a lot of divorces on my grandparents raising me, the only stable household that I had was being with them.
Yeah.
For 5, 6, 7 years of my life. So you don't have to have all that background to get somewhere. I mean, everybody's going to have an opportunity at some point. It's just what you decide, when you decide, and how you take advantage of that opportunity.
Yeah. Let me ask you this question, and I'm just kind of looking at your life. I mean, when did you really make that decision for you? What was that time in your life that you said, "Hey, I want to make something of myself. I want to make a decision. I want to change." And maybe was it somebody in your life that came in? Maybe it was someone that said something, or someone that inspired you, or just kind of gave you that push, a nudge.
Well, the initial, to be successful is one. But my grandmother was a very strong woman. And it's not about, that she gives me all these words of wisdom, or it's just, I kind of talked to you about this the other day. I mean, it's just watching her overcome adversity and overcome all this stuff, because she was very successful in different ways.
Right.
But then, my kids being born was like, I took upon myself to make sure they didn't have to go through the things that I went through growing up.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I got to make some changes so I can do this financially and be able to bring them up in a lot better situation than when I was brought up.
Yeah. No, I think that's good. I think, what I've seen in so many leaders like yourself, Rickey, that, it was just a point in life when they made the decision. Somebody had valued them, somebody had added value to them, someone had inspired them somehow, some way, and what they saw either in that person, hey, I want to be like them, or hey, I want that attribute of what they have, and what they have basically have done is kind of mimic, if I can use that word, mimic that attribute or that characteristic, or say, hey, I want more. I want some things that they are striving, and maybe it has nothing to do with sort of quote unquote success. It has nothing to do with money. It has to do with something of value inside of them that they say, hey, this is what I want. This is the direction I want.
And to talk about what you just talked about, it just made me think that at that time, I wanted something different.
Yeah.
I just didn't know how to get it.
Yeah.
And it took me 10, 15 years after making that decision that, I want to be there.
Yeah.
Good intentions, right?
Right.
The intention was there a long time ago, but it took me 10, 15 years, when we met 5 years ago.
Yeah. Has it been 5 years?
It's been 5 years. I believe February was my 5th year.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So it's been 5 years, and it's just one of those things, man. I never had anybody. Everybody gave me advice, don't get me wrong. I had people give me advice. There's people that give me opportunities growing up. I never really had that true, this is how you be a leader. This is how you need to do things. This is how you're intentional about doing things. So it's been a really good 5 years for me.
Yeah, it has. And it kind of goes back to this question, of really seeing those things. What are you really learning now? What are the things that you're really, soaking in, learning at this point and stage of your leadership now?
Leadership's about being intentional.
Yeah.
And that's what we're kind of going over right now, and that's why it sticks out more. But, a lot of times we show up doing things and we know what to do and how to do certain things, and it's just, but we let other things happen, and then we react to how they happen. So that's how I managed for many, many years. Okay. I don't need to step in until something happens.
Right.
But what I've learned the most is that being intentional gives you less heartburn.
Yes, it does.
Moving forward. So when I sit there and show my intent and put that up front, it pretty much eliminates a lot of the headache when you're dealing with your other leaders and people like that. So.
Yeah, that's true. And you're saying that, one of the things that we talk about even now, we're talking about intentional living by John Maxwell, and going through that ideal and being more proactive than reactionary.
Right.
And I know that a lot of leaders, and I'm guilty of it too. Especially in my early years of leading, is basically being more reactionary. And not planning and not training. And you do a phenomenal job of training your team. And I've watched your team grow, and I've watched them learn from you, really, and become better and training. And so where did that training come from? I mean, how did that, because a lot of people, we talk about this. We talk about training. We talk about, even when I go into other businesses, we talk about how do you train your team? Do you have manuals? Do you have workbooks? Do you sit down? But for you, I mean, where did that training, that ideal, that intentionality of training really come from?
Well, it's a little bit different for me because, you see all these superstar sales car guys that, they can get on a camera and they can tell you how to do it.
Yeah.
But mine was growing up doing it in this business.
Yeah.
And still today I will go out and talk to a customer coming up on the lot to buy a car. So it's about actually doing it. But to be intentional about the training came back when I was a sales manager and just laying out the process like we're doing now. But a lot of it is, there's not a lot of people in my position that will still do what I do as far as having the contact that I have with salespeople and the rest of the people in my dealership,
Right.
is it's, they kind of go on and move on, and I'm always a salesperson at heart, regardless of my title. I'm still a salesperson at heart. So, and I know how they feel, because when I first got in the business, I didn't have the training.
Right.
Like, here's videos. When you get done, come see me. I go watch the videos, come back. Okay, here's a lockbox. Can you go drive all the cars? When you get done, come see me. Drove all the cars, come back. They say, okay, you're ready to sell cars. I'm like, okay, great. Go out to talk to a customer, and you're just like,
Duh. Yeah.
so a lot of that, thinking back on how it was for me, makes it really intentional for me to want to give everything I have in here to all my people. There's nothing I will hold back.
Yeah.
I want them to know it. The more they know, the easier my life gets.
Yeah, exactly.
And I want them to be able to take a customer through a professional sales process that a customer sits back and says, man, these people really know what they're doing. So that's kind of the whole overall deal about being intentional behind it.
Well, and I like that, because even John Maxwell talks a lot about the ideal of adding value to those that are you're leading, those that are following. And for you, one of the things that you have been able to do is take that and be able to take, hey, what I know and what I've learned, I want to share with you. It's that adage basically of, let me do it, then you come along and you watch me do it, right?
Sure.
And then I'm going to watch you do it, and then I'm going to let you do it. And here's the thing that I've seen a lot of companies do. They stop right there. I'll just let you do it. I'll push you away. But the fifth one is the most important part, and that's where, hey, you do it and you bring somebody along with you to do it. And now you multiply. And that's really where you kind of come from, where you're training your team. Hey, I want to train you, but the reason I'm training you is so that you'll train someone else.
Correct.
And I think that is so key, especially to successful businesses today. It's not just, I'm just going to train you, I'm just going to tell you, but when you learn this from me, now I want you to share that with someone else. I think that is so key, and basically in business and what you've done as well.
The hardest thing to do right now is to hire, train, and grow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's harder now than it's ever been.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So to be able to do that and to keep surrounding yourself and growing your crop is what we call it.
Yeah.
Right? So that way you don't have this big turnover. I mean, you got the same people. I tell my people every year at the Christmas party, I want to see the same faces here next year.
That's it. That's exactly right.
And I kind of lead into that every year, because that's real important to me, to be able to grow a family and see the same people year in, year out.
Well, and I want to touch on this because, sales it's hard. A lot of people say, man, sales is just not for me. But what I have seen in the car business, and especially in teams, that the younger people coming in, and it can be young or old, and I don't mean anything by that, but what I see a lot of times is that sometimes young people come in, or people come in, and they do sales for a while, and they do very good, but that they have this grass is greener on the other side mentality, and they may go check something else out. But what I've seen is they come back because when they've gone to other businesses, whether it be in other sales or some other form of business, they say, hang on a second, I had something really good back at Patterson Motors in Kilgore, and I kind of want to come back to that. And you see them coming back to be a part of that. And I attribute that really to you, to your training, to what you're doing with your team. And I want to say this because just recently, and some of you may or may not know this, but Patterson Motors in Kilgore just got the Chamber, right, Business of the Year award. That's phenomenal for the 2024.
2024, I believe. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
That speaks volumes to
20 years in the making. That's 20 years in the making for sure. But
well, a lot of times people say, well, you were a success overnight. Well, it took me 20 years to be successful overnight, right?
20 years in several different places.
Yes,
as far
exactly.
as within the group. So
exactly. Well, and that's the thing too, longevity.
Yep.
What I see a lot of times, and this can be in entrepreneurs, this can be other business owners, supervisors, general managers. A lot of times what we're seeing is a lot of people will go into something and a career per se, or basically to a job, and all they're doing is just trying to make money. That's what they're trying to do. And they don't think of it as a way, basically, how can I really learn from where I am growing and obtain that, and then create longevity with that. One of the things I tell a lot of young people when they're going into businesses, when I'm doing mentoring or coaching, is that, hey, there's a couple of things. If you want to be successful in business, do these two things. And of course, there's other things, but make sure you do these two things. Number one, be the first person there and the last person to leave. And then the secondly is do your work. But once you do your work, ask others if you can help them in whatever they're doing, because you become a problem solver. And you and I both know, especially in any kind of business, there's all kinds of problems out there. and if we can become better problem solvers and help our team solve problems, we're never without a job, right?
For sure.
And we become more valuable. And I think you've seen that in your line of business too, haven't you?
Oh, absolutely. Personally,
Yeah.
I saw it myself. I was the problem solver for a lot of years.
Exactly.
It was one of those, oh, you need some help there? Ricky will do it. Send Ricky over there. Which, a lot of that, going back to me pushing, I'm going to kind of just go right into all this, that once I got really good at the car business, there was nobody better than me.
Right.
In my mind.
Yeah.
Because I was at the same dealership for 13 years. And so I never really saw anything outside. Right. You know what? I'm running the store. I'm the best. It's time for me.
Yeah.
When's my shot?
Yes.
And a couple of times, they bought stores, and I didn't find out till after it was already done. So I was like, well, what about me? When's it gonna be my shot? And so that made me push, and and I had some conflicts along the way because of that mentality that I did have.
Right.
So also, that leads into having, a lot of failure.
Yes.
Over those few years, and so I'd go into a store, I'd fix it, and and they'd move me on to another one, and then they give me an opportunity, and I would say, yes, I'm general manager, and I get a chance to be a partner.
Exactly.
And it would be a wrong opportunity for me. I mean, I would move to Alabama, Kansas, or wherever they would send me.
Yeah.
All they had to do was say general manager or partner, and I didn't care about anything.
Exactly. Let me go.
And I failed on all those, every single aspect of that I failed.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I learned more from those failures than I have in any successes that I've had in this business.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at with that. But yes, it's problem solving is a big part of it.
It is, isn't it?
For
And,
sure.
and I think that for us to grow, we know this. I mean, there's going to be problems for us to grow. There's got to be, and there's plenty of problems. There's plenty of problems. But the problem is a lot of times, I didn't mean that to be a play on words problem, but a lot of times we look at problems as a negative. We look at problems as, oh no, what am I going to do now? Instead of looking at it as an opportunity, right? And to be able to grow from it, to learn from it. And once we're able to learn and grow from it, hey, how can not only I get better, but how can our organization become better through that as well? So been a partner 5 years. General manager, partner, is it?
No, I've been in Kilgore for 5 years.
Okay.
And you were working with Tiny at the
Yes,
time.
that was. Yeah, that's exactly right.
And
Yeah, what a great man.
yeah.
What a great man he was. And that's how I kind of got started there, was working with Tiny. Of course, a lot of people don't know, but Tiny was general manager there for, how long was he?
Just a few years there.
Years. Then caught COVID and passed away in 2020. And had a great opportunity. Trey Patterson asking me to come in, and I'm so grateful for Trey Patterson and putting our paths together.
Oh,
to be
absolutely.
honest with you, and giving both of us opportunities. So thank you, Trey Patterson,
Yeah,
for that
absolutely.
as well. And but I thoroughly enjoyed Tiny and getting to know him. But one of the things I remember about Tiny, because he was very much about leadership and very much about growing himself and learning too. And I just can attribute that and kind of spilt right over into you, into the dealership itself. And what you've done is you've taken the torch that was handed to you. But not only Tiny, but also Trey Patterson said, hey, I want you to run with this. And you've done a phenomenal job of doing that. So let me ask you this question. What are you learning now, Ricky? What is really on your plate to learn? What are the things that you're saying, hey, this is what I'm growing from? And that can be not only just professional, but hey, even personally maybe a little bit too.
One of the biggest things is, again, another conversation that we've had over the weeks or months or years that we've talked is good intentions just aren't enough.
Yeah.
Everybody starts out with good intentions with no action, no action plan. So what I'm learning now is, to have the good intentions, but to be able to put an action plan in place intentionally,
Right.
and watch that unfold as you do that. So, because we had that conversation, Colt or somebody
Yes.
was in there like, I've always been told that good intentions are enough. Well, what does it say? Live a life with good intentions. And you know, I was like, well, that's the idea. It's better than bad intentions, but you got to have some action to follow behind the intentions in order to balance them out. So I would say that was probably the big part that I'm learning now.
No, that's great.
And enjoying. So.
Yeah, that's great. Well, and that is true. I mean, when we look at intentions in life, and everybody, you know, we all have good intentions, but good intentions does not help everybody. They don't help anybody, honestly. And so we can see that in our own lives of good intentions. So talking about that, intentions, okay. So what is an area that you're more intentional about right now?
Working with my team on a daily, weekly basis. So, you know, we're doing this training stuff on Tuesdays, right? So, I mean, I'm being more intentional actually getting a game plan together for that. And I'm being more involved in our daily activities as far as, hey, what about this? What about that? So I'm being more intentional about working one-on-one with salespeople, sales managers, finance guys, people in the shop, people in the office. I mean, I'm just trying to, that's what I'm working on now, is being more intentional working with those guys.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, let me ask you this last question here, and just kind of, you know, as we kind of wrap up today. And of course, this is all about learning, being intentional, and growing as well. But what is the greatest thing you've ever learned, you know, from childhood to even now? And if you were to say something to someone today, you know, that they came up to you and said, hey, Rickey, give me some words of wisdom today.
Words of wisdom.
What is that, you know, something that you've learned that, hey, I need to apply to my life? What are some things that I need to be able to be better at? What maybe would that be?
You know, again, going back to the good intentions part, you know, it's not enough just to have good intentions. You know, everybody's got the opportunity at some point in life to make their story great.
Yeah.
Right. So, and that's it. Just anybody that has the opportunity, you just got to put a daily plan in place. And that's really what I've learned out of this. All this stuff is, you know, started out with good intentions with an action plan, but do it daily.
Yes.
Write it down daily on what your intentions are going to be and how you're going to live out your great story, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that is so true. And, you know, I think being able to write, and you've heard me say this so many times, is that, you know, for me, especially because I journal, I started journaling several years ago, and I can't say I do it every day, but when I do journal and be able to express those thoughts, it just brings a lot of clarity, intentionality to me in the direction I need to go. And I know we've talked about that for yourself, in the ideal of really giving direction and really being able to hone in on, hey, where am I going? Where am I taking my team? You know, what's the overall vision, right? and what am I doing to bring them along? And we know this as leaders, we're always going ahead of our team. We have to, you know, we have to build the bridges first, and we have to make sure that, hey, everything's there. But we don't get too far ahead of them, because then we lose track with them. And so we want to bring them along with us. And I think you do a great job with that, Rickey, of being able to be far enough vision casting for your team, being able to bring them along with you and let them know, hey, I value you. And let me say this, and for those listening today, this is a great thing that I've seen Rickey do in the idea of investing his time into the team and investing your money. I'll just say that, investing your money into the team to make them better. It shows great value that you have to your team. You add value every single day. You're looking at adding value to your team. And as customers and potential customers come on the line, they see that, they sense that, they feel that, they know that, because the team members exude that, and they bring that out. And, you know, I always say, I can't give you what I don't have, but the way that we want our team to grow is I first pour in myself so that I can give to my team, so that they can give to their customers. And I think that is so key. So, Rickey, thanks, man, so much for being here.
Man, I appreciate you having me.
Being here. And for those of you watching, thank you so much for being a part today, and appreciate Rickey coming along and sharing some leadership thoughts today with us. And I hope that added value to you as well. I look forward to seeing you again soon as we continue to kind of grow in our leadership and our personal growth today. We look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks again.